Welcome to the Marty's After Dark of Sports edition of Sports on Sunset. It's July 22nd. I'm James Jericho.
Reggie Jr.
And the reason we choose the topic a week, the reason I'm happy that Reggie is again substituting for Jeremy Paul. Jeremy will be back next week. The reason that Reggie, I'm glad he's here, is because unlike Jeremy, Reggie is really into baseball.
Absolutely.
And I've wanted to broach baseball topics with Reggie for quite a while. Something within the last week or so I've read on a number of news outlets has jumped out. There's a minor leaguer for the Cincinnati Reds. He was just recently promoted to Double-A, name of Billy Hamilton. Billy Hamilton has over 100 stolen bases, and on more than one occasion has scored from third, not on a fly ball, but a pop-up.
Yeah.
Speed used to be a wonderful part of going to a baseball game. And to me, I think watching somebody steal a base is as exciting as watching a home run or watching somebody pitch just in the upper 90s, almost touching 100. But stolen base has gone away. And it's been gone away for quite a while. There is a belief that Hamilton can bring back a return to prominence of the stolen base in baseball, but I'm not certain. Reggie, what position? You played college ball?
Yeah, I was a middle infielder. I played second and shortstop.
So, as a middle infielder, what college, by the way?
Cleveland University.
Okay. You were probably relied on for speed at the top or bottom of the lineup.
Yeah.
So, the first thing is this. At what point do you think, or are we on the dawn of the stolen base returning to prominence in professional baseball?
Yeah, I definitely think it needs to be implemented back into the game. I think it just in general, the overall athleticism of the game has to increase. I think the stolen base will definitely help to bring that back. I think two of the reasons why you see a decline in stolen bases is one reason you don't see as many inner city kids playing baseball. I think they're starting to come back now.
By the way, why do you think that is? And if it is along racial lines, be honest.
Well, I think that the difference between baseball, football, and basketball for black kids isn't the fact that, you need equipment, or isn't the fact that it's not promoted in the inner city. I think you're starting to see more of a comeback now than you did, let's say, 15 years ago. We're starting to see a lot more black kids even out here in California and back in the South that are two-sport athletes. But I think it's because baseball is a skill first, and it's an athleticism next.
Okay.
When I played, it took me a long time up until my sophomore year of high school to really acclimate to thinking and being more of a skill set more than it being an athleticism. For example, there was a lot of kids in my school that were great athletes.
They could probably run from first to second.
Like that. But knowing the situation, knowing how to round the bases, knowing when to take off, getting on base, that's a big thing. So
you're bringing up points that I wanted to ask. What are the first is this, and just in terms of athleticism, we mentioned Billy Hamilton a moment ago. Were you ever timed circling the bases?
Yeah, my senior year.
What was your time? Okay. 13.8 seconds for Billy Hamilton. That is 120 yards if it was just straight lines. And of course, he's curving. 13.8.
Yeah,
that's flying. Jumping to another base stealer from back in the day, Davey Lopes. For a long time, he only, I don't know if he's always mentioned as a great base stealer. For a long time, he had the record for most consecutive steals without being caught. He's also the current first base coach of the LA Dodgers. With that said, the reason for it was not simply because he was the quickest, but because he broke everything down. So, tell us, the layman, what are the triggers? It's like a poker tell. What is the triggers that you look for when a pitcher's on the mound that tells me I can break for second? What were the triggers that you were basically told to look for?
Well, the first thing you want to look at is his feet. A lot of times, most pitchers, when you get on first, if they're afraid that you'll steal, they'll do a slide step, or they won't kick their knee up as high. But really, stealing bases even starts when you're in the batter's box. just noticing what his normal delivery is, and then picking up his hand motions. A lot of times.
Give me an example of an obvious tell.
Okay, so
like if I'm watching a ball game on ESPN tomorrow, it's like, oh, you could have stolen Butler, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
What's an obvious tell?
Well, they teach you in elementary baseball that when a pitcher's told is pointing, starts to point home, then that's when you go. But a lot of times it's really just instinctive because you're already in the pitcher's head. When you're in the pitcher's head already, then even if he's gonna try to pick you off, once you get his knee time high enough, because once that knee comes to a certain length, he can't come around anyway.
Right.
So I watch his knees, you watch his feet, you watch his legs, and
it's all about whether it's pointing towards first or towards home.
Right. Now that's for a right-handed pitcher. For a left-handed pitcher, of course, he has an advantage because he's facing you.
Right.
So a left-handed pitcher, a lot of times go deep with their head and their feet, but it's still being all the same as you watch that foot, and you break for second. Sorry.
I have, by the way, before I ask you the next question, give you some stats. Currently, right now, the major league leader in steals is rookie Anaheim Angels outfielder Mike Trout with 31. Dean Gordon of the Dodgers leads the National League. Davey Lopes is teaching him. He has 30. And he flies, Dean Gordon does, but he has caught a lot. Here's my issue. Oh, by the way, Hamilton 109 steals through Thursday. The record in the minors is 145. But of course, the problem is, can he get to the show before he does something like that? And we have not had somebody steal over 100 bases, which used to be quite common. We have not had somebody steal over 100 bases since 1987. That was Vince Coleman. Look, you're a Royals fan. The Cardinals were across the state. I'm not suggesting you should ever lose your allegiance to your favorite team.
Right. But
the mid-'80s Cardinals were absolutely insane. They had 314 steals in 1985 alone. By comparison, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays led the league in steals in 2011 with about 160. Tell me if on some level you were like, God, I love watching the Cardinals play, because that was more your game.
Yeah,
if they were wearing anything else other than Cardinal red.
I just enjoy good baseball. I don't really care if it's the Cardinals. I mean, I would prefer it to be the Royals, but I just enjoy watching good, clean, hard-nosed baseball.
Okay.
So I can respect it. Now I don't enjoy watching the Cardinals beat up on Royals, but you got to respect game recognized game. You got to respect the fact that their front office has been committed to winning. They've been a franchise that's been able to make good moves.
Why, in your opinion, do you believe that the stolen base has fallen by the wayside in terms of an actual, commonly used offensive play in baseball?
Well, I think again, I think you have to look at the overall style of athletes you have playing baseball.
What is the current style of athlete?
Not as good as it was 15 years ago.
Why is that?
I mean, there's a lot of hypotheses I can throw out there. I just don't see the explosiveness of a Ricky Henderson.
I have two. Let me throw them at you, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. One, 1990s steroid abuse. The reason for that is basically, why should I call for a stolen base when the guy at the plate is probably going to jack one out of the yard? Why should I risk losing out? You agree with that?
Yeah, conservative ball plan.
Okay. The other one is you've heard the phrase Moneyball. I don't think you've seen the movie yet. You rat. Anyway, I'll let him borrow it. The A's, by the way, that would be a perfect ballpark for a steel-based type team, all that foul territory. The Oakland A's, when they lost all of their 5-tool players, 5 tools, one of the tools is running like hell, and they could only afford 1-tool players, they said, well, we obviously can't afford base stealers. And the A's wound up still going to the playoffs consistently in the first few years of Moneyball. So people followed the Oakland A's model and said it is more important to get off base than to take the next base. And monkey see, monkey do. So you're saying, okay, even though we're following what the Oakland A's did in the early 2000s, And even though people are screaming for steroids, we are still thinking home run first, not run. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah. I think the overall, but I think again you have to go back to the style of athletes that you have playing the game. One of the athletes I think will kind of help bring some of that back is Bryce Harper, just with his hard-nosed style of play over in Washington. But just to go back to the style of athletes, you don't have the Bo Jacksons, you don't have the Deion Sanders, you don't have the Ricky Hendersons, the Pete Roses of the, you don't have those aggressive, pure athletes that you once had. However, when you do start to kind of get more of those types of kids playing, and you do have them in a McCutcheon over in Pittsburgh. He can do it. He can run. He can hit. He can throw. It will blow the game back open again, because base stealing is a huge part next to a home run. I think offensively, having a guy that can keep the double play out of the mix, that can steal first, get to second, and that can set the cones up for your home run hitters. I think that's definitely more of what you need to have.
You said it took a few years. This is going to be the last question before we drop topic. You said it took you a few years. Now, you were in high school.
Yeah, I was in high school.
But it still took you a few years to say, okay, I've got the big skill set before athleticism.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we have become hooked on not thinking about the skill set?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly, because the example I was going to give you was it was a kid in my high school who was an all-state basketball player. He was about 6'6", 6'7", 250 or so. He was a monster on the basketball court. All of his friends were like, "Yo, D, you should come out for the football team, man." He's like, "I never played football. I have no interest in football." He came out for the football team 1 year, his senior year, right? Played defensive end, tore up the state, and ended up getting a D1 scholarship to a Big Ten school. That would not happen in baseball.
Side question: how many base stealers do you think it's at real hardcore threat to go ball base stealers do you think we're going to need before it becomes a prevalent part of the offense? The reason I bring it up, you mentioned Henderson, you mentioned other guys. The Cardinals committed to it in the 1980s and went to 3 consecutive World Series, and they just didn't have one guy with steal base. Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, Andy Van Slyke, Terry Pendleton before he got fat and went to Atlanta, and even Tommy Hurt. They all could run like hell. How many? And they were just scary to watch. But with that said, there were still base stealers on other teams. How many people have to be legitimate base stealing threats before we see the pendulum swing? In your opinion,
at least 4.
Okay. How many do you think we have now?
What's about per team?
No.
Okay, yeah. No.
How many are like?
Man, you can never have too many, but I'd say about 15 to 20.
Okay, 15 to 20 legitimate base stealing threats, and how many are currently, in your opinion, playing in the majors?
I mean,
more than on one hand.
Maybe 7, 8. I mean, I just don't see it. Like you said, with those guys that you named, it was nothing back in the day to just see a whole squad that was just legitimate.
Approaching 50 or
And again, what that does to your pitcher, what that does to your defense is it completely takes the focus of the pitcher off the batter, and it's making your pitcher work double time, because you got Ozzie Smith coming up, and you got McGee coming up after him. So you got these guys on the base.
And they all were great getting on base.
They get on base, right? But again, it goes back to the skill set, knowing, especially at the top of the lineup, it's not necessarily just about hitting base hits, but taking those walks, just getting on base, learning how to get on base, knowing how to run the base pass, knowing how to get off your jumps. A guy that I like a lot is Carl Crawford.
Yeah.
And Curtis Granderson, that's my favorite right now. I love Granderson. Is a beast on the base pass.
Absolutely. With that said, why don't you tell them what's on your mind, brother?
All right, we're talking about baseball-wise.
Anything you want to talk about
in general.
Anything you want to talk about?
I wanted to kind of delve a little bit. I want to switch topics and get back into we got the football season coming up. I'm a little disappointed in a lot of the young guys' decision making, off the field. Fairley, DUI. Blackman is a rookie, was just busted a few months ago in Oklahoma. There's Brian is effing up.
Big time.
A lot of the guys on the Detroit team are getting caught in domestic violence, and it's like, you know, to me, it's I don't think a lot of guys understand, and to play the game in any professional sport is a privilege, and a lot of the effing up that's going on is a bad stain on the, first of all, the league themselves and the community as well that they're coming from. And I just think it's just completely negligent and stupid that these guys are just getting caught on stupid stuff. I mean, drunk driving. I mean, I had a friend recently that was killed, another comic that was killed by a drunk driver. So that's something that I take very seriously.
I remember
Angelo. Yeah.
Everybody loved that guy.
Yeah. He was a good guy, man. So stop effing up, man. Y'all really are. I mean, and it just makes it bad for everybody. It just really makes it bad for everybody as a whole. So that's I'm a little disappointed in that right now.
Guys, last week it was determined that the NBA, starting soon, will include sponsorship on their uniforms. They're going to sell advertising space on their uniforms. Now, many of us, and I understand this logic, we're purists, we don't like the idea of buying jerseys with this little 2x2 patch. It's going to be a 2-inch by 2-inch. It's not going to be the most dominant thing, but it's going to stick out. And I kind of understand why people don't like it. But with that said, I'm really not going to bitch too much about it for two reasons. One, I'm not buying uniforms anymore in the first place for the NBA. The primary reason is I'm too old to be wearing jerseys with guys' names who are half my age. So that's one. That's not my wheelhouse anymore. But the other reason is this: we're just going to have to get used to it, because look, it's an athletic jersey. It's not the Shroud of Turin, okay? Right. We're not sitting there saying, "Oh, it covered Jesus." No, it's covering Vince Carter. It's not a big deal, really. No. And in addition to that, I would like to kind of sit there and go, you know what? Maybe it's going to be a little annoying when it first happens, but after a while, I'm looking forward to seeing who purchases the ads on these jerseys. Like for example, if Jason Richardson stays in Orlando, I'd like him to make sure that they put advertising for child safety seats on his jersey. I think that would be one. I think that would be great. I think Zach Randolph. Look, if Zach Randolph has his own ad, when I punch my teammate in the face, I use Band-Aid adhesive gauze to try and staunch the wound. That would be a good ad. I think Delonte West ought to, even though he doesn't play there anymore, I think Delonte West ought to purchase advertising on the Cleveland Cavaliers jersey for 1-800-Flowers. Why? No reason. And I think the coup de grace, Shaquille, do me a favor. Please put out another rap album.
No.
And then buy an ad for the Lakers jersey just so Kobe Bryant can run up and down the court with an ad saying, "I'm Shaq, and my new album, How Does My Ass Taste Now, Kobe, drops on September 12th. That would be a wonderful thing. And I'm looking forward to that. I think Madison Ave, it's cooperative crossover.
Yeah, who cares?
Exactly.
I mean, it's all a money game. It's all a money game anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna buy any. Look, I mean,
do it.
Yeah, eventually, because I mean, let's be honest. We're both. Well, maybe more me than you, but we're both starting to get up there in years.
Right.
And how many of these guys who are like 15 years younger than either of us, who are going to be like, oh yeah, this guy in high school, after I was pushing 35, I'm his bitch. I'm going to be running around wearing his jersey. No, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, by the way, thanks for helping out with these last couple of weeks.
Sure, absolutely.
Reggie's going to be our headliner at First Friday Funnies next month. Check out JamesJericho.com for the information. Provided that police helicopter doesn't arrest us both first. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. I'm James Jericho.